All the technology the Antichrist needs to fulfill everything that's written about in the book of Revelation is available today. We are going to look at 3 of these prophecies. Plus, Zach Drew from the Zach Drew Show joins us to share his latest research into how technology today is fulfilling Bible prophecy. All of that and more on today's Into the Multiverse.
This is Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck.
Hey everybody, hope you are having a great week. Well, last week was a lot of fun. Expansion of the universe, that kind of stuff really blows my mind. This week we're going to focus in on technology, image of the beast, Antichrist kind of stuff, and I'm really excited about that. If you haven't had a chance to do so, make sure you subscribe to this channel. You got to click the bell for notifications. Otherwise, YouTube will not notify you. They still might not notify you. If they don't notify you, don't worry about it. Just know that every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Central, you will get a new episode of Into the Multiverse. Also, if you have any questions that you would like to write in for the show, you can email me personally at jpeck@skywatchtv.com. Maybe we'll start doing a viewer question and answer segment in the show. That would be kind of cool to do. We actually used to do that in the early days of Into the Multiverse, and it would be kind of cool to bring that back. So if you have any Into the Multiverse related questions, go ahead and email me. Okay, so what I wanted to start with right off the bat is Bible verse Revelation 9:1, and this has been speculated about for quite some time. It seems like nobody really knows what it means. There's a lot of ideas about it, but Revelation 9:6 says, "And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them." So a lot of people have wondered, what is this verse talking about? Like, how can they seek death but not find it? Does that mean that people are going to be trying to commit suicide and they're not able to for some reason? And so that's been speculated a lot about, and it sort of seems like that's what it's saying. Now, of course, this wanting to die, it's coming from the attacks of these locust things that come up out of the bottomless pit that's talked about in Revelation just prior to this verse. And I've done a bunch of videos and stuff on that specifically. What the locusts are. I believe they're fallen cherubim. I don't think that they are actual hybrids of. I don't think that's a return of the Nephilim kind of thing, kind of scenario. I'm not saying that there won't be some kind of return of the Nephilim. I just don't think that's it. I do have videos online that you can check out, and I'll do a future episode specifically on the locusts. That's something that's always been really, really interesting to me. So this seeking death but not being able to find it, what is that all about? Well, recently, there's been this story. This comes from Technology Review, and it has, "This scientist finally found the fountain of youth." This is a mind-blowing story because it really shows you how close we are to this kind of stuff. That technology is being developed today that's available right now that could bring fulfillment to these prophecies. So this is written by Erica Hayasaki. So she's talking about a laboratory that she's in of Juan Carlos Espesua Belmonte, who's a Spaniard who works at the Gene Expression Laboratory at San Diego's Salk Institute for Biological Studies, and apparently this person is showing this reporter something that is hard to believe. So it's a mouse that up here she describes it as the black mouse on the screen sprawls on its belly, back hunched, blinking, but otherwise motionless. Its organs are failing. It appears to be days away from death. It has progeria, a disease of accelerated aging caused by genetic mutation. It's only 3 months old. So then, down up here, it says, he's showing her something hard to believe. It's the same mouse, lively and active, after being treated with an age reversal mixture. It completely rejuvenates, Esposa Belmonte tells her with a mischievous grin. If you look inside, obviously, all the organs, all the cells are younger. Isn't that strange? Now, if there's an anti-aging thing, this is still, as we're going to see in a minute, this is still in its early stages, but this is not the only experiment that is trying to find, a fountain of youth or a cure for death. We're going to look at some more later, but this isn't the only one. But imagine if this gets perfected and people just don't age anymore. Continuing on, I want to scroll down here. The powerful tool that researchers applied to the mouse is called reprogramming. It's a way to reset the body's so-called epigenetic marks, chemical switches in a cell that determine which of its genes are turned on and which are turned off. Erase these marks, and a cell can forget if it was ever a skin or a bone cell and revert to a much more primitive embryonic state. The technique is frequently used by laboratories to manufacture stem cells. But Espuzua Belmonte is in a vanguard of scientists who want to reapply reprogramming to whole animals and, if they can control it precisely, to human bodies. So, this is a quote from him. He says, I think the kid that will be living to 130 years old is already with us. He has already been born, I'm convinced. So, it says each generation brings new possibilities as the epigenome gets reset during reproduction when a new embryo is formed. Cloning takes advantage of reprogramming too. A calf cloned from an adult bull contains the same DNA as the parent, just refreshed. In both cases, the offspring is born without accumulated aberrations that Espuzua Belmonte refers to. Now, He says here, he cautions that epigenetic tweaks won't make you live forever, but they might delay your expiration date. As he sees it, there's no reason that we can't extend human lifespan by another 30 to 50 years at least. And then he says that quote that we've already looked at. Because this is still a very young technology, it's kind of horrific in its side effects. So you can look at this paragraph here, and it says, these mice, it seems, have sipped from the fountain of youth, but Espuzua Belmonte can rejuvenate aging, dying animals. He can rewind time, but just as quickly as he blows my mind, he puts a damper on the excitement. So potent was the rejuvenating treatment used on the mice that they either died after 3 or 4 days from cell malfunction or developed tumors that killed them later. An overdose of youth, you could call it. So this stuff, it gives them youth for 3 or 4 days, then kills them. So they actually do end up dying faster. But imagine when, and it's because they're being overdosed with this stuff, but imagine when they can perfect this technology. And could we see a fulfillment of the prophecy of Revelation 9? Could it be because of this kinds of things? Now, who will this technology be available to? As we're going to look at in a minute, the mark of the beast, that is so people can buy or sell. You would not have access to this type of thing if you don't have the mark of the beast. With the mark of the beast, whether it's an implant or some genetic thing, it enables, with however the economy works during that time, you need the mark of the beast, whatever exactly that is, in order to participate in the economy. So this type of technology, once it's perfected, it's only going to be available to those who accept the mark of the beast, who participate in the economy. And then what happens? The locusts come, they torture those who accept the mark of the beast. They torture non-believers. And those are the ones who want to die but can't. Death flees from them. See, so it all fits together. The reason that God's chosen, God's people, the reason that people who love God aren't tortured by these things or don't have this problem of not being able to die is because they never accepted the mark of the beast in the first place. They were not able to participate in the economy to get something like this done. So that's how this type of technology can be abused. And we got to keep that in mind because they'll always say when they develop this type of thing, they'll always use humanitarian excuses. Well, it's to cure cancer. It's to cure aging. Why would you want, think of your children. You don't want them to age and die and have all these genetic disorders throughout their life, don't you? They always put this veneer of humanitarianism over what's really going on. This is a piece of technology that could be used by the Antichrist in the very near future. Now, I want to look at another one here. This is Revelation 13:14, and we're going to read through verse 18. And just for some context of what we're talking about here, this is talking about the beast, the Antichrist, who's deceiving human beings on earth. All right, so that is the context. So it says, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. Now, that's a little interesting detail that often gets overlooked. The people, the human beings that are being deceived, they're the ones that make the image of the beast. They build the image of the beast, whatever that is. A lot of people have suggested it could be some type of artificial intelligence. Look what it says next in verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Could this be a type of artificial intelligence system? Earlier in this chapter, we read about the deadly head wound, and you're probably familiar with the prophecy, although a lot of people interpret it differently. Some say that is possibly a fallen kingdom or something like that. Some take a really literal approach and say that the Antichrist is going to be like stabbed in the head, and then he's going to die, and then he's going to come back to life. But imagine if this is something, maybe it's a little of both. Maybe it's something such as what transhumanists are trying to instill right now, trying to develop technology to actually download somebody's consciousness and then upload it to a machine. What if it's something like that? What if the image of the beast is really a copy of the Antichrist, a copy of his consciousness that's put into this machine? So it's not the Antichrist exactly, but it's a copy of his consciousness. It's a copy of his brainwaves and everything that we can do and put in a machine. And maybe that is how the Antichrist has the power, is able to give life to this thing. How is the Antichrist able to give life to it? It could be some supernatural thing, or it could just be because he has his consciousness copied and uploaded to a machine. I mean, these are technologies that are being developed today. And then the actual image of the beast, what might that be? That could be some type of artificial intelligence. The biggest hang-up with artificial intelligence right now is the consciousness aspect. People developing this technology haven't been able to crack consciousness. What exactly is that? They can mimic it, but it's not real life. It's not actual life. So if they're able to develop a technology that can literally copy a person's consciousness and put that into a machine, that would basically be that person giving life to the machine, right? Now, it's not the same life that God gives human beings. It's a satanic copy, but nonetheless, it's the enemy creating things in their own image, literally the image of the beast, the image of the Antichrist. Now, I want to look at this article here. Well, before we do, let's read the rest about the mark of the beast here. It says in verse 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save that he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay, so it's the 666 thing. Now, there have been some that have made the claim that there's a hidden code in here that has to do with like the internet and technology, because if you take this in Hebrew, not Greek, if you take this in Hebrew, every Hebrew letter corresponds to a number. And the number 6 is the letter Vav. Vav is used for English V's and or W's. So in the name Yahweh, we name Yahweh in the Bible for God. Yod He Vav He. So Vav is that W. So what do you get when you put 666 together? You get WWW. So there have been some that said that that's kind of a hint for us, that it might have something to do with the internet or a global type of information, a global type of consciousness. And maybe the internet is going to be used to facilitate some of this stuff. Now, that could be very well true if the image of the beast turns out to be an artificial intelligence, especially if it's an artificial intelligence that's been copied from the Antichrist himself. Take a look at this article. This comes from Yahoo News, and the headline is Amazon Microsoft putting world at risk of killer AI study. So there's been a recent study done, and And Amazon, Microsoft, and Intel are among leading tech companies, obviously, putting the world at risk through killer robot development, according to a report that surveyed major players from the sector about their stance on lethal autonomous weapons. Because that's something else, too. If this AI consciousness thing, this image of the beast, if it is facilitated through the internet, it would have access to all the world's weapons. I mean, we would be at its mercy. Now, that might be sold as, look, there's not going to be any more global wars. Nobody can go to war with one another anymore. So we're handing all of our power over to this beast system, but then that could be used against us. It says Dutch NGO PAX ranked 50 companies by 3 criteria: whether they were developing technology that could be relevant to deadly AI, whether they were working on related military projects, and if they had committed to abstaining from contributing in the future. So Frank Slijper, that is a very hard, Sliper, maybe? That's a hard word, hard name to pronounce. But he's the lead author of the report that was published this week, and he said, quote, "Why are companies like Microsoft and Amazon not denying that they're currently developing these highly controversial weapons, which could decide to kill people without direct human involvement," end quote. So the use of AI to allow weapon systems to autonomously select and attack targets has sparked ethical debates in recent years, with critics warning they could jeopardize international security and herald a third revolution in warfare after gunpowder and the atomic bomb. There was a panel of government experts that debated policy options regarding lethal autonomous weapons at a meeting of the United Nations Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons in Geneva on Wednesday. Now, Google last year published guiding principles eschewing AI for use in weapon system, was among 7 companies found to be engaging in what's called best practice. In the analysis that spanned 12 countries, as was Japan's SoftBank, best known for its humanoid pepper robot. And in our upcoming interview that we're going to air for you in just a few minutes with Zach Drew, we talk about SoftBank and what's really going on there and how that will be used in end-time prophecy. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. 22 companies were of medium concern, while 21 fell into a high concern category, notably Amazon and Microsoft, who are both bidding for a $10 billion Pentagon contract to provide the cloud infrastructure for the U.S. military. Others in the high concern group include Palantir, a company with roots in a CIA-backed venture capital organization that was awarded an $800 million contract to develop an AI system that can help soldiers analyze a combat zone in real time. So Stuart Russell, who's a computer science professor at the University of California, Berkeley, told AFP on Wednesday, quote, "Autonomous weapons will inevitably become scalable weapons of mass destruction because if the human is not in the loop, then a single person can launch 1 million weapons or 100 million weapons." And he adds, "The fact is that autonomous weapons are going to be developed by corporations, and in terms of a campaign to prevent autonomous weapons from being widespread, they could play a very big role," end quote. So the development of AI for military purposes has triggered debates and protest within the industry. So last year, Google declined to renew a Pentagon contract called Project Maven, which used machine learning to distinguish people and objects in drone videos. It also dropped out of the running for Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, or JEDI, the cloud contract that Amazon and Microsoft are hoping to bag. So, it goes on. There's a lot more here. It talks about facial recognition technology, how drones could wipe out one ethnic group or one gender using social media information. You could wipe out all people with a political view. Now, that's something that me and Zach talk about in the upcoming interview, too, that they know everything about you. So I wouldn't worry as much about the ethnic group thing, but what about a religious group? What about Christians? What about conservatives? We're already being blacklisted on major social media platforms. We're already being silenced. If they had the power, would they not use that to their ultimate advantage? Just get rid of the problem. So again, this type of technology is being developed right now. I also wanted to look at Revelation 14, specifically 9 through 11. And by the way, if you're not familiar with this format that I'm using here, this is called blueletterbible.org. It's a really, really good resource. It's a really good study Bible. It has a lot of things. If you're on the King James, which you can pick up here, you can click this Strong's button, and it'll give you all the Strong's references for every verse. So it's a really, really great tool, and if you want to check it out, it again is blueletterbible.org, so make sure to check that out. Now, why is this so important? Why should we worry about this? Why do Christians take the mark of the beast so seriously? Well, this is why right here. Revelation 14, 9 through 11 says, "And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worships the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name." That's why we take it so seriously, because that's a terrible fate. And part of this whole equation that gets looked over too is, in order to accept the mark of the beast, you must worship the beast. You must worship the beast and his image to accept the mark. So nobody's going to be tricked into getting the mark of the beast. Nobody's going to have to wonder, is this the mark of the beast or is this? You'll have to worship the beast in order to get this thing. And so that is why we take this so seriously. That is the worst fate imaginable. So of course we would want to warn people about it. Keep your eyes out for this type of anything that is remotely close to mark of the beast technology. Just, it's best to not have anything to do with it. Why take the chance? Why take the chance when your eternity is at risk? With looking at this prophecy, I wanted to look at this story because, Epstein has been in the news for quite a while. And it's kind of sad because of the strange circumstances surrounding his death, more people know and remember Epstein now based on that and not based on his horrible crimes. Not based on the sex trafficking and all the stuff with children and just all that disgusting stuff. Now what people pay attention to more than that is that he was likely murdered and he likely did not commit suicide. And that's what people are focusing on. If it stays that way, that's what he's going to be remembered for. And he should be remembered for his vile acts against children and people. But a little-known fact about Epstein is that he was a big-time transhumanist. Big time. He is one of those ones that would have fallen in that category that the prophecy talked about those who accepted the mark of the beast, had he lived in that era. If he lived in the era of the mark of the beast, he would have been first in line. I mean, he was actively trying to get this going. So there was a story that recently broke about it. This is from oldthinkernews.com, and lots of places. Yahoo News has covered the story as well. But the title is John Brockman's Edge Dinner hosted Epstein Minsky meetings between big tech heads pushed transhuman future. So it says, Brockman wrote in 1969, "Man was nothing more than a model, a technique. It is necessary to construct a new model." Jeffrey Epstein's deep involvement with transhumanism was briefly reported by the New York Times. His involvement was characterized as an isolated, bizarre fascination, but the community he was involved in is deadly serious about their goals, and they absolutely are. And again, a lot of them will use this veneer of humanitarianism. We just want to cure cancer. We don't want people to die. What's wrong with that? Well, nothing's wrong with that, but how is this technology going to be abused? Because for Christians, and really what should be for everybody, but for Christians, the source of all that stuff, the source of eternal life, the source of healing, all of that stuff lies in Jesus Christ. So what transhumanism is, it's not so much about curing diseases and curing death and all that, but it's based on a fear of death. It's based on a fear of these things. We Christians, if we have a relationship with Jesus, we know that there is no sting of death. When you die, you're still safe because you're with God. You're safer than you are in the world, that's for sure. So transhumanists, and I do believe that many of them do see transhumanism as a humanitarian effort. But again, we have to think deeply about this stuff, and we have to ask ourselves, how could this technology be abused? How could this technology be used against people groups or religions or people who don't fall in line with the program? Well, I'll tell you how. You read the book of Revelation, you can see how. And as we're going to see in a minute in the Zach Drew interview, this stuff is being implemented in U.S. policies now in ways that will shock you. So you stay tuned for that. But this continues on and says, as reported by the New York Times, Epstein gained access to the scientific community through John Brockman, a little-known but highly influential agent based in New York. In 2000, the Wall Street Journal ran the headline, "At the Growing Billionaires Dinner, Tech Stars Move to Grown-Ups Table." The Edge Billionaire Dinner has hosted all of the biggest names in big tech: Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Evan Williams, Bill Joy, Larry Page, and others. Yahoo Finance reports that the group is deleting posts from its website about Epstein following revelations of his sex trafficking. Epstein is still listed as a guest in 2000 on the Edge Dinner website. Also listed as a 2001 guest is Marvin Minsky, accused of sex with a trafficking victim. John Brockman himself sought transhumanist goals. His 1969 book, Afterwards, foreshadows the transhumanist philosophy of later years, which envisions man merging with machines. So Brockman writes, quote, "Man was nothing more than a model, a technique. It is necessary to construct a new model. The human delusion lies in the belief that the human being is the basis of reality and the final goal of evolution," end quote. The Edge Billionaire meetings have discussed the future of genetic engineering, biocomputation, and redesigning humanity for a transhuman era. Doesn't that provide you with comfort that these are the types of people that are making decisions that will shape the future that we all have to live in? Doesn't that give you a good sense of comfort to know that that people like Jeffrey Epstein are making these decisions? And I'm not saying every transhumanist is exactly like him, but he was one of them. So continuing on, it says, physicist Freeman Dyson described the individuals leading this group as having godlike power to create entirely new species on Earth in a new age of wonder. He describes them as, quote, "a new generation of artists writing genomes as fluently as Blake and Byron wrote verses, might create an abundance of new flowers and fruit and trees and birds to enrich the ecology of our planet," end quote. Because what God has done for us and what God has given us isn't good enough. We're spoiled brats. We don't want God's design. We want our own design because we're following in the footsteps of fallen angels and demons. That's exactly what the fallen angels wanted, a creation in their own image. And that's what led to Genesis 6 and the flood right after that. And we as human beings are following in those footsteps. At least these human beings are. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, and I certainly don't speak for Christians because we tend to reject that as much as possible. Notorious author Michael Wolff wrote in 2000 for New York Mag regarding the elite conference circles. Quote, "Conferences are to the technology business what weddings are to the Godfather movies. This is the time for the extended family to come together to pay its respects to the dons and capos, and a time for people who want to be associated with the family to come and be introduced," end quote. So as revealed in the 2005 book, The Google Story, Google founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin met with Craig Venter, credited with creating synthetic life, at the Edge Billionaires meeting. Also present were representatives from the U.S. State Department, Bill Gates, Ann Wojcicki, Bill Joy, and dozens of other tech company CEOs and scientists. The authors write, not long after the dinner in California, Brin and Page teamed up with Venter. The biologist gained access to Google's immense computing power and personnel. Epstein is far from a lone wolf actor in the transhumanist movement. The powerful individuals he rubbed shoulders with shared his longing for a transhuman future. So there you have it. People like Epstein, these billionaires, these tech elites, are making decisions that will affect the future for all of us. And again, if you wonder what that future looks like, just look at the book of Revelation. This stuff is so evil. It flies in the face of God, and he's not going to put up with it forever. So, and we've been warned of this for thousands of years. It's been written down. The Bible's prophecies do come true, so we know it's reliable. There have been plenty of prophecies that have proven true, so we should expect the future ones to be fulfilled as well. And this is what we're headed towards. So we need to be aware of it. We need to be aware of it so we know what to not participate in. And not only just out of fear that God's going to be mad. That should play a factor in it, at least a little bit. If you love God, you're going to do what he says, so it's not really about fear in that way. It's about fear as in like respect. It's more about that. But not only that, but just for your eternal soul. If there's even a chance, I know I have some transhumanists and biohackers that watch my show, and honestly, I'm fine that you guys criticize me. That's okay. I just want you to get the information. I want you to see the other side of the story, and it's honestly fine. Whatever opinions you have about me, that's fine. I'm not challenging you at all on that. But what if the Christians are right? As wild and preposterous as it might sound, what if we are right? You're taking your eternal soul into jeopardy with this stuff. You're risking not just your life, but your afterlife, your eternity, your eternal state outside of time, the thing that you always will be outside of time. There is no before or after. There just is in eternity, and you're risking that. For what? No matter, even if you could realize every transhumanist dream, there still is a death waiting. There still is death. Even if you could live to the end of the universe, to the end of the age of the universe is still going to end somehow, some way. There's going to be a time where you can't create enough machines to keep up with it because particles themselves are going to degrade and they won't be able to come together anymore. There is going to be a time of the end, and there is no escaping it. And it doesn't matter if it happens 1 billion years from now, 5 billion years from now, 1 trillion years. What does that really matter when there will come a time of the end? So if you're able to add on a couple more 100 years of life, but you risk your eternal soul over it, what is that worth? Either way, at best, it's a stall. Where on the other hand, what the Christians propose is if you have a relationship with Jesus, you can have eternal life abundantly. An actual new body that's not going to degrade. And why do we believe this? Well, again, look at the prophecies that have been fulfilled in the Bible. All of them have been fulfilled with 100% accuracy. Nobody has ever been able to find an actual prophecy that they didn't take out of context to try to just make it sound like it wasn't fulfilled, but an actual prophecy that said something was going to happen in a certain way, a specific way, at a specific date and time, and then it turned out happening a different way at a different time. And I know some people say that there are vague prophecies in the Bible. The Bible is full of a wide variety of prophecies. Some are more vague, some are more focused. Many times you'll have a single event that's prophesied in a lot of different ways. Like some prophecies will take a wide scope snapshot of it and give you a very vague detail. And then some will focus in with laser precision in on specifics, so that way you can test it according to the Bible and you can show that this stuff was fulfilled. And I actually want to show you this. This is a good place to start. So Dr. Ken Johnson, he's a good friend of mine. I've interviewed him several times. I've interviewed him on this book. Ancient Prophecies Revealed. This is 500 prophecies listed in order of when they were fulfilled. So this is a really good place to start. If you want to test the Bible, and if you are sure that you can find something wrong, a prophecy that wasn't fulfilled correctly, then this is a good place to start. This shows where all of the 500 of them, there are many, many more prophecies in the Bible, but this shows where these, at least 500 of these prophecies were fulfilled, how they were fulfilled, and actually shows that the Bible is an excellent proof text for this kind of stuff. So if the Bible was correct on all of the past prophecies that have been fulfilled, why would we think that it would not be correct with the future prophecies when it says that the smoke of the torment of the souls of these people who accepted the mark of the beast, who worship the beast, ascendeth up forever and ever? Why would we not believe that? So you owe it to yourself to at least do some research. It's your eternal soul that's at stake. And if there's any chance that the Christians are right about this, you should care enough about yourself to look into it and at least try to understand it from the Christian's perspective and see if it holds water. So I do this from the transhumanist side all the time. I totally understand why people are transhumanists. I totally understand that. If I was a materialist, or if I didn't believe in God, if I didn't have a faith in God, if I didn't believe in any kind of afterlife, I probably would be a transhumanist too. If I was sure that death was as much of a threat as materialists believe it is, then absolutely I would be a transhumanist if I knew that there was no God, if I thought that there was no God. But so I understand why people are transhumanists. But again, with my faith in Jesus, with my faith in God and what He says, I understand that there is a greater risk. If I'm wrong, then I die a couple of decades earlier than maybe I could have if I didn't biohack myself, or worst case scenario, I'm still dead, but maybe death is prolonged a little bit longer. What am I going to do with that 10 or 20 years? Who knows? But either way, death is still coming. So if I'm wrong, I haven't really lost anything. I'm still dead. I might have lost out on a couple of decades, but I'm still in the same boat as everybody else. There's no there in that scenario, there would be no afterlife, there would be no God, that's it, nothing. And at some point in the future, the universe is going to die and degrade, and particles aren't going to be able to combine together to form matter anymore. And so what's the point of any of it? At that point, everything is going to be erased, so what's the point of any of it? That's if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, we're all in the same boat, and it doesn't really matter that much. If I'm right, though, eternity is hanging in the balance. If I'm right, if the Christians are right, there is something infinitely more powerful, infinitely more important than just physical life. There's eternity. There's an eternal state outside of time. It's not infinite time. It's not that goes on forever and ever. It's a state outside of time where whatever you are when you enter that or when you leave time, you just are that thing. So if you're separated from God, then you just are separated from God, and you just are in torment. Now we say things like forever and ever because eternity is a really difficult concept to grasp. I don't know what a state outside of time would really be like. I can't imagine that. But that's what eternity is. It's not infinity, it's eternity. So all of that hangs in the balance. Your state in eternity could either be in right relationship with God, in perfect bliss and joy and fulfilling everything you were actually created to be, everything that God created you to be, and you used your own free will that God awarded you. You used your own free will to get there, to be there. You could be that, or you could be in an eternal state of just absolute disarray, of absolute, this is not what you were created for. This goes against all of God's desires for you. It's a complete separation from God. That's because God is perfect. Just by His own nature, anything that's imperfect, there needs to be a separation. And that separation, it's not that God is just torturing you for all of eternity. That's not what it is. It's that eternal state of being separated from God by your own free will, by your own choice. God gives you free will. He's not going to force anybody into heaven. But by your own choice, you've chosen to be separated from Him, and so you now have an eternal existence that is completely unnatural. It's just complete separation. And that is the torment. That's the fire. That's the torture. And for eternity, your eternal state is knowing that there's no chance, there's no hope, because there's no time anymore. So what you are, you just are. There's not a second chance because there's no time to award a second chance within. We're in our second chance now. We had our first chance in the Garden of Eden. We all individually had our first chance before we committed the first sin we ever committed, and everybody has committed a sin. So we're in our second chance now. There is no third chance. There's no time to award a third chance in. By your own actions, you are just in that state, completely separated from God, knowing that you made a mistake, knowing that by your own choices, you have no hope anymore of getting back to what you were created to be, of getting back in right relationship with God. You are nothing but torture and pain and torment. So that's how eternity works. So God is giving you a choice. Everybody wants to focus on the negative stuff and say, well, how could God do that? Look, when you tell a kid, don't touch the stove, it's hot, you'll burn your hand. If the kid goes and touches the stove and burns his hand, is it you that burned his hand? Did you go up and force his hand on the stove? No. The child used his own free will to go and do something that you told him not to. You warned him. You told him the consequences. The child could not say, well, I didn't know what would happen. Now, of course, it's not a perfect analogy because the parent should be watching the child, of course. But, we are adults, we're not children, so that's where the analogy breaks down. We are personally responsible for our actions in a way that a child isn't. But even then, the child's hand still gets burned. It's because that is the consequence of those actions. It's not the parent that's punishing the child by burning his hand. It's just that is the consequences. So God is telling you about his nature, about who he is, about what he is, about the nature of eternity, about how he works and how he can work no other way. He can't be in the presence of sin without that sin being separated. He can't be in the presence of somebody who is unrepentant or who never took his free gift of salvation, who used their own free will to reject him. He can't be in communion, in fellowship with that type of person because that person is exercising his or her own free will to go against God, and God awarded us free will. And he's not going to go against it. He's not a tyrant. He's not going to force you to obey him. You have your own free will. So I would think it would be at least worth looking at. It's too easy to just say, well, religion, it's all it's done is started a bunch of wars, and all it's done is this. No, people have started wars because we're all imperfect. It's not Christianity. It's people. So it's not a good idea to define Christianity based on Christians because Christians are fallen creatures. Define Christianity based on Christ, Jesus Christ, the ultimate Christian. He's the model that we all aspire to be like because we know we're all fallen. Now, that doesn't get us off the hook. We still shouldn't do bad things, just like nobody should do bad things. But we're still just people. The only thing that separates a Christian from a non-Christian is Jesus. It has nothing to do with the Christian. It's not the Christian is such a good person that he earned heaven. It's not like that at all. The Bible doesn't teach that. It doesn't work that way. The only thing that separates us, Christians and non-believers, is Jesus Christ. So define Christianity based on Jesus, not based on us. We are very poor representations of what Jesus has willingly gave his life for the salvation that we didn't earn. We are poor representations of it. So you owe it to yourself, because you're a valuable human being, you owe it to yourself to look at what Christianity actually teaches, look at what Christ actually teaches, what the Bible actually teaches, and really look into it. Because again, your eternal soul is at stake, as is mine, as is everybody's. That's why this is so important to us. It's not about winning converts. It's about literally saving souls in eternity. And in that eternal state, with God, I want to see all of you there. Okay, well, all of that being said, hopefully that's helpful. We got to get to this interview. I'm really thrilled about this, and your mind's going to be blown. So Zach Drew, if you're not familiar with Zach, he is the host of the Zach Drew Show, and that covers a wide array of topics, including the role of emerging technologies in Bible prophecy. And that's what we talk about in this interview. Now, in my time of knowing Zach, I found him to be an incredible source of information and just an amazing spirit-filled brother in the Lord. Now, I reached out to Zach to come on the show to share his latest research into the incredible technological advancements that are being made today and that are fulfilling prophecy right now. We also have a very special announcement about an upcoming event that we will have to tell you about in the interview. We'll tell you that at the end of the interview. So, without further ado, watch this. Hey, Zach, how are you doing?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. Thanks for being on. It's great to talk to you again. And I do want to thank you also for having me on your show, the Zach Drew Show recently. That was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to having you on Into the Multiverse, your very first appearance.
Yes, and it's good to be here, like I said, and we're going to have you back on the show as well. We got a great response, even on the PTL Television Network, Apple TV, Roku. People love the stuff that you talk about, Josh. I'm telling you that right now.
Well, that's fantastic. All the feedback I hear from you as well is similar. Everybody's saying, hey, Josh, if you haven't checked it out, you got to check out the Zach Drew Show. It's a great show. And now I can tell people, actually, I was on the show, so thanks. But well, I'm really glad to be talking with you about this subject specifically, because I know that you've done a few past episodes of your show on some of this stuff. And, it's kind of difficult to find younger people like me and you up to date on technology, but from a Christian perspective. Usually people our age,
Absolutely.
if they even know what biohacking is or Neuralinks and all this stuff, usually it's in favor of those things. It's rare to find people like me and you who are our age, from our generation, and who look at this a little bit more suspiciously from a Christian perspective. And the first thing that I wanted to ask you, because I don't think a lot of people are familiar with this term or really how important it is and what it means, but I wanted to ask you, are we in the fourth industrial revolution, and what does that mean for you and I? Because I imagine not a lot of people have heard that term before, but I know it's something that you're quite familiar with.
Amen. So first of all, I just want to say I'm glad that you asked that question first, because a lot of other people will ask different types of questions, and it's so important to lay the foundation first for where we're heading. So where we're heading in this interview, it's going to get really deep really quickly, but the foundation is this, that everybody needs to understand that are we in the fourth industrial revolution? I believe that we are. Now, Josh, I believe that we're not far into it, but we have taken a couple of steps, and there are 1,000 steps ahead of us, but we have entered into the fourth industrial revolution. Now, first off, we know what the other industrial revolutions are just from, going to even high school or college, learning about the industrial revolutions. Now, here's the thing. In the same way, people, let's say you were born in the year of 1750. You see, the first industrial revolution took place between the years of 1760 and 1840. Okay. If you were living in the year of 1750, your brain couldn't even conceive what was about ready to be developed. That's where I feel like we are right now. You see, the first industrial revolution, basically from 1760 to 1840, it changed the world as we know. You and I, we cannot imagine the world if the first industrial revolution hadn't taken place, because what it was characterized was by this. Basically, for the most part, everything went from hand production to what? To machine production. And then the second industrial revolution was from 1870 to 1914, the second industrial revolution, and it was known as the technological revolution, which basically it was the invent of public electricity, the light bulb, the telephone, and it also gave birth to the internal combustion engine, which gave birth to what? Planes, trains, and cars. You see, we cannot imagine what the world would be like without those first two industrial revolutions. It's changed the fabric of our lives, how we operate. Well, then we have the third industrial revolution, which is called the digital revolution, which started in the 1980s. And it was characterized as moving from analog, electric, and mechanical devices to what? To digital technology. Now, many, many things were created during this time period, but it's best known for the personal computer and the internet. Mm-hmm. And now I believe we have just entered into and just taken the first couple of steps into this, Josh, the fourth industrial revolution, and it's building off of the digital revolution. And now here's what's crazy. This is kind of what we're talking about today. This one is going to be characterized by representing new ways in which technology becomes embedded within societies and even the human body. The new revolution, it's going to be marked by nanotechnology, quantum computing, autonomous vehicles, robotics, AI, and everything IoT, the Internet of Things. In the world of complete connectivity, even you yourself will be connected. So now here's the thing. In the same way, I believe we're going to be able to look into the future 20 years. If we were in the future 20 years from today, we would be looking back on 2019 and thinking to ourselves, wow, it's so crazy to think that there was a time period where people were not biohacking their bodies. It's so crazy to think that there was a time period where the vast majority of people did not have BCIs in their head, brain computer interface, brain microchips within their bodies. If we could simply just look into the future, we would be, honestly, it is a scary future. It really is, Josh.
Yeah, and that brings up a good question too, because that's a topic that comes up quite often, especially with things that exist today that didn't used to before, and that the human mind couldn't even imagine just a few decades ago. Things like Neuralink and kernel. This brings up the question, and it's an important one: where do we draw the line when it comes to things like biohacking or upgrading our own bodies? I've kind of expressed my answer to that question in the show before, but I'm curious to know what your thoughts are.
Well, I'm interested to hear what yours are too, to see if they differ at all. But for those that say no, never, no biohacking, nothing being inserted into my body ever, we've got to understand that in a way, a type of biohacking already exists. Because if you're just like no way, never, well then, God forbid you ever have heart problems where you'd need a pacemaker.
Right, or a hip replacement even.
Or a hip, exactly. Yeah. God forbid that your hearing starts to leave you and you have to go get cochlear implants to hear better. God forbid any of that. Because you see, where do we draw the line? Because we are already getting used to a type of biohacking, but it doesn't stop there. And then you have another category of people that they might think to themselves, well, you know what? I don't want to become one with artificial intelligence, but a little better memory might be nicer. And you see, and that kind of talks about, that's where we are right now with even Neuralink, with Elon Musk's new company that was established in 2017, developing BCIs. And we have even other companies like Kernel. I want to talk about this just for a second. You see, I want to set the stage with this. You see, it was at an event at the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco last month that Elon Musk talked about the radical advances that Neuralink has made since it was founded in 2017. And Josh, I'm sure you know all about it. It is insane. It is so radical to see how far they have come. Now remember, Neuralink, so they're the ones that are developing and creating these brain microchips like the world has never seen. And Elon Musk, he's one of the people that believes that he is creating technology to be embedded within us to save us from our doom of artificial intelligence. There's two streams of thoughts here. Either artificial intelligence is going to wipe out humanity, or we merge with artificial intelligence to save the human race. Now, some of the short-term goals of Neuralink are to, treat various brain disorders such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, to move from there to help amputees and restore the ability to see, talk, and listen. But Elon Musk made it abundantly clear in that presentation that his overall goal is to truly become one, truly symbiotic creatures with artificial intelligence. Now, this is a thing. There's already been one BCI in the United States that has been FDA approved. And this current brain chip has 10 electrodes right now. And it's, zapping different parts of our brain. Now, not in the sense of we're getting, shocked, but zapping it in the sense of it's telling the neurons what to do, and it's helping people with Parkinson's, and it's helping people reducing seizures that people with epilepsy are having. So the current BCIs, they are helping people right now on record in great ways with Parkinson's, with epilepsy. And those current BCIs, Josh, they have 10 electrodes. The BCI that Neuralink is creating right now, which he says that he plans to embed within the human brain by the end of 2020, does not have 10 electrodes. It has 10,000 electrodes. It will literally be 1,000 times better than anything that has ever been approved within the United States.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about, and those are really good points to bring up with it, because I've always said when it comes to things like this or what sometimes is called like mark of the beast technology and stuff like that, the main thing that I want to know before anything else is it restorative or does it enhance, basically? So does this technology enhance God's creation in some way, or is it restoring something that's been taken away? And that factors in a lot with me. You know, I have a hip replacement, and I'm going to have an ankle replacement. I wear glasses. You know, I have a lot of restorative things that, but it's because things that happened in my body go outside of what God's design already, you know, was for it. Like, you know, we're not supposed to be born with bad eyesight. You know, it's restoring the eyesight. But it doesn't enhance the eyesight. I can't see through walls, you know. It's nothing like that. It's still it restores to a very human standard. Now,
that's very interesting. So that you're saying that the line in the sand for you is to where it restores to what the human body is. But you're saying if it ever gives you maybe, yeah, this sounds funny to say, very sci-fi to say, but you're saying if it ever extends beyond what the human has ever been, that is where you draw the line in the sand. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it depends. I mean, yes and no, because there's the other factor that you brought up too. It's like these brain implants. They're helping Alzheimer's people. It seems like, you know, on paper, it seems like all they're doing is restoring something that should be there, and that's great. But you also have to look at how the potential for this technology to be abused. Can those chips be hacked at some point in the future? You know,
exactly.
And is that worth the risk? You know, maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. I think that those types of things would have to be, you know, conversations that individuals have with their family and their doctor and all that. I don't think from what I know about it, the brain chips that are just merely trying to treat Parkinson's, if there is no risk of getting, I mean, there's always a risk that, you know, in 10 years somebody could develop a way to hack into these things and cause some damage. But you know, but barring all that, if it's worth the risk because the person gets a quality of life that's better than they're getting now, and it's not falling into enhancing you know, what God created is to be human being, then I think that personally I think that's okay. But it's also something that that I think the individual has to decide for him or herself. Where I think the actual line is where it falls into sin or where it falls dangerously close with you know, like flirting with the mark of the beast kind of stuff, is when it enhances the human body or changes it, especially like on a like a DNA level, when it alters somebody to the point where you can't even recognize them as human anymore because there's something that's seen as better. You know, they're human plus, like what the transhumanists are dreaming about. So that to me is the line. But even, you know, on an individual level, I could understand why somebody would not want a brain implant, even if they, you know, have some kind of debilitating disease, for fear that it might be abused in the future.
And, you know, even in California at this presentation of everything that Neuralink has been doing since 2017, you know, Elon Musk, even though it was not listed in the white paper, and you actually saw that the main presenter, other than Elon, he was a little upset whenever Elon said this because they weren't supposed to announce this yet, but he had already said, listen, with our current BCIs, we already have, which have already been embedded within several monkeys' brains. There's a particular monkey that we have that has been able to control the computer before him with the BCIs that we have already made. And that was alarming
Wow.
to me, Josh. Let me tell you, I just wanted to give this little analogy because I feel like so many people have such a hard time being able to imagine what the future is going to look like, that it's good to bring them to the past and say, listen, if this cycle continues in the same way, if you were for someone to say in 1981, everything that the digital revolution was going to encompass, if they said, hey, listen, I have an idea of what this is what it would look like, they're going to be way far off. They're going to be so far off because anybody trying to paint a picture, it's going to be very difficult, especially going to these new places. So here's something I wanted to bring up on today's program. It says this: the cost of a 1 gigabyte hard drive. Okay. Today, you can go get one from Best Buy for basically a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
Did you know in 1993, IBM was selling a 1 gigabyte hard drive for $3,000? A 1 gigabyte hard drive for $3,000. Now, 10 years before that, 1 gigabyte, just 10 years before that, cost around $165,000 per gigabyte.
Wow.
Actually, it was in 1981 that Apple, to get 1 gigabyte from Apple, it would have cost you around $700,000 for one.
Wow.
Now, just if you count inflation, that means 1 gigabyte today, in what would have been in 1981, $700,000. That'd be $2 million in today's dollar. You know, my iPhone here being 256 gigabytes, that means that it'd be worth over $500 million. You can buy an 8 gigabyte flash drive today for $2 from Best Buy.
Yeah.
Technology comparisons here are extended. The Apollo space module that landed on the moon only had a 4 kilobyte of memory in their guidance computers. Okay, that's not even enough memory to display a photo of the module on the internet.
Wow.
And I have several here. I'm just going to list this last one.
Yeah.
In 1946, scientists at the University of Pennsylvania created what they call the electronic numerical integrator and computer. It was one of the first computers. It was a 30-ton machine, okay, 60,000 pounds, with 17,468 vacuum tubes, 70,000 resistors, and 10,000 capacitors, and it occupied a room that was 30 feet by 50 feet. It was a calculator.
Wow.
I just described the first calculator in 1946. So my point is this. If you think brain microchips are going to stop at 10 electrodes, then you're not getting it. If you think they're going to stop at 10,000 electrodes, which are going to be embedded into the first human in 2020, then you're not getting it. It's everything is in an incredible exponential fashion. Where BCIs, where brain chips are going to be in 20 years is going to be, like you were describing just a few minutes ago, Josh, absolutely sci-fi in nature.
It's insane to think about how fast this is approaching, and really just the whole technological era isn't very long, and it could have happened at any other point in history. I mean, ancient history, you look at spans of hundreds of years or thousands of years, and they're pretty much the same. You know, in any one of those eras, they could have had an industrial revolution. You know, they could have had some, but for some reason, it was now. And so that I want to ask you, do you think that there's a reason behind that? Do you think Satan is behind this future technology? Because we hear about things like DMT and the sources of where they get their ideas and stuff like that. And I know that that's something else that you've looked into far more than I have. How does DMT play a factor in this, and who is really behind this technology?
Sure. And so to address your first point, you're exactly right. Abraham of the Old Testament, for the most part, got from point A to point B in the same time and the same fashion as Abraham Lincoln did thousands of years later.
Right.
There has been an incredible amount of technology. But yes, I do believe that Satan is behind this. You know, even the reason Satan loves technology, and like you said, we don't want to be so radical that we say all technology is bad.
Right.
But whenever we have learned from other filmmakers like Justin Fall that even he brought that team to Burning Man. I actually learned about this at one of your conferences a couple of years ago. He learned that the tech elite are actually tripping on DMT. They're blasting off. And they're having demonic encounters where they are speaking to fallen angels. And these fallen angels are teaching people the technology to build. With simply that little nugget of truth, do you think that the end game of the current technology is for the benefit of the Christian if it's being taught to the tech elite by fallen angels? Absolutely not.
Exactly.
And so how is technology going to be used in the end times? Why does Satan love it? Because Satan wants to be like God.
Right.
The more that I study God and his kingdom, and the more that I'm in this type of news, I realize, my gosh, Satan literally, he wants to be everywhere. And he wants to be all powerful, and he wants a kingdom and for his servants to execute his orders in the same way that God's ambassadors are to execute God's orders. Here's the thing. So first of all, this is a super obvious. The clear takeaway of these BCIs could be linked to the mark. Okay. Right. Revelation chapter 13, and I'll read this and I'll get somewhere from this. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So that's the clear spiritual takeaway from these brain microchips. But the chip is furthering Satan's kingdom and his false heaven on earth. He has, I'm telling you, Josh, it's crazy. He has a demonic parallel for everything that the Lord in its pure form has. Satan wants a kingdom like God, and he wants to be worshipped. Here's some of the demonic parallel. You see, God will demonstrate his seal of ownership on his servants in the end days with a mark on their foreheads. Obviously, we just read that Satan wants to do the same thing because he wants to be like God. And obviously, we know that there's a false trinity, Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet, which is a mimic of the holy, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. Satan, I believe, will one day be all-knowing, nearly, through complete connectivity. You see, whenever I was at my time at True News, we did a lot of traveling around the world. There was a team of about 5 or 6 of us. We traveled to tons of different countries. And at one of those particular events, you had Masayoshi Son. First of all, he's the owner of ARM, which ARM produces almost every single microchip in every single phone in the world. And so True News team was there listening near the front row to Masayoshi Son talking about the future of technology. So yeah, he's the owner of ARM. He's the main guy behind SoftBank, which is not a bank. Okay, it's a venture capitalist firm to invest in the future of everything IoT, primarily with artificial intelligence. And they're absolutely in bed with Saudi Arabia. And it's going to end up being, one of the pillars of the end times is Masayoshi's SoftBank. He's also the richest man in all of Japan, even though he's of South Korean descent. But he's talking about in the age of singularity, which he says is going to be around 2040 to 2042 is what he wrote on record saying in Barcelona, Spain. And in that day, whenever microchips literally have an IQ of 10,000, okay, as comparatively speaking to someone like Einstein, which was probably somewhere around 200, which would be absolutely incredible, insane if he even was that high.
Right.
Now, in the age of singularity, whenever you literally have every chip having the knowledge of 10,000, that's superhuman. That is superhuman intelligence. Now, but what he said was this: our goal is to put microchips in everything. And then he literally said, I mean absolutely everything. There will be, with a T, trillions of microchips. He says everything your eyes can see will have a microchip. He goes from the glasses you're wearing to the silverware that you're eating with. He goes, in your shoes, you will be stepping on intelligence with an IQ of 10,000. And then he talked about how all of this is going to be fed back to what he referred to as a global brain. So you literally have every single thing in the world in this time period of the age of singularities, they call it around 2040, with microchips in everything, super intelligence, collecting data in real time and sending it to what he referred to as a global brain. Well, who's going to control this system?
Right.
Do you realize that means everything in the world will basically be able to be recorded and relayed in real time? Essentially, whoever has power of this, they would know the numbers of hair on your head. They would know if a sparrow falls to the ground. I'm saying that this is going to be used for an end times agenda. I believe that the Antichrist, the son of perdition, the man doomed to destruction, he will be in control of this system. And as you know, the promises of Neuralink. Think about this, Josh. The early stages of Neuralink, like I said, is to treat brain disorders,
right? Like
Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease. This is great. This is wonderful. This is good stuff, right? But then it says, then we move from there to help amputees and to restore the ability to see, to talk, and to listen. Okay? What he's basically saying is they're saying with the tech they're building right now, they're promising that they're going to be able to give sight to the blind. The deaf will hear. The lame will walk. And those oppressed from brain disorders such as schizophrenia, seizures, autism, or any other brain disorders, they'll be healed. In whose name ultimately?
Right.
And it's by taking this chip. Satan is in this. And like I said, once again, going back to Justin Fall, DMT this crazy psychedelic spirit drug that people are taking. And right now, it's really had a resurgence in America since around 2006. And I was reading an article just a couple of weeks ago that they believe that there are a few million people smoking this in America alone every single year. And
Wow.
we've talked about it before. I've talked about it. You've talked about it. That DMT isn't necessarily a recreational drug.
Right.
You're not smoking it to have a good time. It's not like, well, Zach, okay, well, people are getting drunk by the millions every week, and people are smoking pot by the millions every weekend. People are taking opioids by the millions every weekend. Okay, listen, that's because people are making those into recreational drugs. DMT is not. I've sat down and talked with so many people that literally say, I have smoked it one time. I will never be the same. My eyes have been opened. I've been shown the light. I'm no longer an atheist. I'm quoting many people, but I'll only do it one time. Now, for the brave in spirit, they might even have a 1-year cleanse. Around the new year, they might smoke DMT. And then, if you're a little braver than that, some of these tech titans, they'll microdose a little bit, not to go on this full radical experience, but mushrooms, peyote, these other psychedelics, if you and I took mushrooms, we'd still stay in this same reality, Josh. We'd still stay here right now, and we would just be simply seeing different things. But so many people will take DMT together. They'll all lie on their bed for 15 minutes and blast off, and they'll have nearly the exact same experience, but not in this reality. There was a breakout session at Burning Man last year where they were literally teaching young executives the benefits of microdosing DMT.
Jeez.
I mean, this is breakout sessions? Was this a conference? Teaching young executives how to successfully microdose, take small amounts of DMT to be enlightened throughout your week, to produce more creativity throughout your week. And these are the things, and this all plays into technology. The technology, I mean, how much obvious can you be? The leading smartphone in the world is literally an Apple with a bite taken out of it. And I know I'm not saying anything that you or I or your audience doesn't know, but it's right there in front of us. And I do believe it's been inspired by Satan.
Absolutely. It's plain as day for those who know what to look for those who are looking for it. Let me ask you this, because I know right now in our modern age, just like basically today, the worst things involving tech that Christians have to worry about is usually centered around censorship. I get hit hard with this. I know you do too. We as Christians in our modern age, we get censored. But in the future, if all of this technology continues, I think it's going to go far past just mere censorship. I think it's going to get much worse. How do you think this technology is going to be used against Christians in the future?
The social media companies, which are absolutely working with our government, they have created a digital twin of who you are. And the thing is this, the government knows exactly who you are through your digital twin.
Right.
They know everything about you. And people need to come to grips that 5 years from today, President Donald Trump will not be our president. The election is coming in about 1 year. So let's just say 5.5 years in the future. Donald Trump will not be our president.
Right.
And Obama's America is coming back, and it's going to not necessarily run by Obama, but the wickedness is going to be increased. And people just need to remember that with what I'm about ready to say, because we are in a reprieve, and a reprieve is just a postponement before the judgment comes. What they know about you is startling, your digital twin. Let me read a list for you. Let's just talk about Google for a moment. What does Google know about you? Google knows who you are. They know your appearance, thanks to facial recognition. They know your voice, your religious and political beliefs, your health status, your personal details. They know everywhere you've been. Location tracking is one of the areas that Google excels in. They know where your home is. They know where your office is. They track and record your location through several different means, Wi-Fi, GPS, cellular networks. This means that the phone knows everywhere you are every day and how long you're there for. That's how they know where your home is and where your office is. They know the places you visit, the places you've traveled. They know who your friends are, who you talk to. If you use Gmail for one of your personal or work accounts, they know where you meet, what you talk about. Google keeps track of what you talk about over Gmail. What you like and dislike. It's how the search engine creates and sells you those personalized advertisements.
Right.
They know the books you read, the food you like to eat, the movies you watch, where you shop, and what you buy. They know your future plans. The company can also use data from their applications and search engines to make predictions about what you'll be doing in the future. What you're interested in buying, seeing, eating, upcoming trips and reservations, future life plans. Have you been searching about homeownership, about when the best age to have children is, about tips for traveling to another country? They can predict what you're going to do in the future. And they know, obviously, your online life, the websites you visited, your browsing habits. You literally have given them a digital twin of yourself. They know you better than probably your best friends do. They know who you are when no one else is even around. The government knows you. Now, here's the thing, Josh, they already know who they are. They know who the future enemies are. Like I said, Obama's America is coming back. President Donald Trump cannot be the president for the rest of our lives. And so let us not forget, it was even back in 2009. I have it here. This is an unclassified assessment that was released by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. They know who you are. They have your digital twin. And one day you will be labeled as a terrorist. Let's have a little history lesson on who the Department of Homeland Security labeled as a terrorist in 2009. So this is called right-wing extremism. Current economic and political climate fueling resurgence and radicalization and recruitment. This is actually from, and you can get this from DHS's website. Who do they label a terrorist? How will this tech be used against you? Hey, how about revisiting the 1990s? Paralleling the current national climate, so they're comparing it of what it was in 2009 to the 1990s, and who they label as these extremists. Right-wing extremists during the 1990s exploited a variety of social issues and political themes to increase group visibility. Yeah, because that's what we're doing. Prominent among these themes were the malicious movement, now we're militia, to oppose gun control efforts. These are the terrorists. You're labeled as a terrorist if you criticize free trade agreements. You're a right-wing extreme terrorist. And they highlighted perceived government infringements on civil rights. Also, extremists, they exploit social issues such as abortion and same-sex marriage. Do you stand in opposement of abortion and same-sex marriage? Well, then you're an extremist in America. This was Obama's America. Wow. Here's some more. Domestic right-wing extremists have feared, predicted, and anticipated a cataclysmic economic collapse in the United States. Prominent anti-government conspiracy theories have incorporated aspects of an impending economic collapse. Yeah, sure, I can absolutely see that. You're labeled as an extremist if you believe in conspiracy theories, such as declarations of martial law, impending civil strife or racial conflict. You are an extremist if you believe in conspiracy theories such as the suspension of the U.S. Constitution and the creation of citizen detention camps. This is in the Department of Homeland Security's. Wow. Yes. You're an extremist if you believe in conspiracy theories such as anti-government conspiracy theories and anti-government conspiracy theories and end-time prophecies. Would motivate extremist individuals and groups to even stockpile food, ammunition, and weapons. This technology is already there. They've already created a digital twin. Donald Trump is not going to be president forever, and Obama's America is coming back. So there's a flashback to what Obama's America was and exactly who they labeled as the extremists and who they labeled as the terrorists. It was you and I. It was right wing. They call us extremists. It just means good conservative Christian people. That's who the extremists are to them. And so here's the thing. The left, the liberal left, their enemies are the same enemies that the Antichrist will have one day.
Right.
How wild is that?
Yeah.
That it is literally conspiracy theorists that believe in end time prophecy, that stand against abortion and homosexuality. Their enemy is the same enemy that the Antichrist will have. That's a scary. That's a scary thought.
What can Christians do about it today? And then ultimately, how will God prevail against all of this?
Absolutely. So first of all, how do we prevail right now is get the word out. Talk about, take your Bible to your unbelieving friends. First off, share the gospel. If they really are unbelieving, they don't know Jesus, share the gospel of Jesus with them. But as far as end times events, take them to the scriptures that clearly identify the days that we're living in right now. Amen.
Amen.
So how will God prevail against this? It's incredibly easy. And I wrote this is as simple as this. Jesus Christ, he's going to come back to earth and he's going to destroy the Antichrist. There it is. Everything that he is building, he is orchestrating his plans to literally dominate and take over God and his earth. Jesus is going to come back and destroy the Antichrist. The devil will then be bound for 1,000 years. And for 1,000 years, we're going to have a period of peace on earth. Men will no longer be under demonic oppression. It will be a time of love, brotherhood, and no more war. Even the animals will be at peace. And at the end of this time, yes, after man has been in paradise, that results when God's will is done on earth. The devil, he will be set free for a limited time. He will lead one final assault on God, but he'll lose. It's already written. This is a part of God's sovereign will. And he's going to be cast into the lake of fire with all of his angels, and he's going to be there for all of eternity with no possibility of escape. This is how God overcomes. The Bible is prophecy, and God shows himself that he is real and he is the God of the Bible because he fulfills his prophecies. Most of the Old Testament is literally prophecies. Yeah. Jesus has fulfilled so many of them. We know that the God of the Bible is the God of the Bible. So why would we ever be led to believe that he's fulfilled the large majority of the prophecies in the Bible, but he's not going to fulfill the end prophecies? Right. He absolutely will. He's absolutely going to prevail. By the breath of his mouth, everything will be done. It will be over in Jesus' name. And we're literally going to live in an incredible eternity with God forever and ever and ever. I love it. We've already won.
That's ultimately our hope. Our hope is in Jesus Christ, and if we have our hope in Jesus Christ, we don't have to have fear in the Antichrist. And that's absolutely amazing. What great information! Hey, before we let you go today, we have a special announcement to make. We have a cruise that we're putting on. Why don't you tell people about that?
Yeah. So actually, Josh and I were going to be doing a ministry cruise in September of 2020. It's going to be from the 6th to the 13th. And like I said, it's a Caribbean cruise. It's going to be on the Royal Caribbean ship, and it is called Harmony of the Seas. It is their newest and largest ship as of last year. It's going to be awesome. Josh and I, we're going to be speaking every evening. That is not a port day, so we're not going to ever interfere with your activities that you have on the islands. So just on the days that we're at sea, we're going to be ministering in the evening time. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence. We're going to be talking about New Age. We're going to be talking about, obviously, political topics, as the election will literally be a month and a half from that time period. And if you want to go on this cruise with Josh and I, you need to sign up through heavenlycruises.com. That's heavenlycruises.com, or you can call 209-588-9565 and just ask for Pastor Sharon. This will be in September of 2020. And if you go through heavenlycruises.com, you can actually even make payments with 0% interest, obviously. I mean, just payments until the cruise is coming around the corner. And so it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. Please check that out. We want you to be a part of it. We've reserved a conference room for up to 300 people, but you have to book it through heavenlycruises.com to be a part of that number.
Absolutely, and I have a feeling that is going to sell out fast because very, very limited in terms of numbers, but it's going to be a blast. We have some really important information to relate to you guys, and we also just want to fellowship with you and get to know you personally. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Zach, thank you so much for coming on the show. Before you go, can you tell people? Oh, absolutely, anytime. Can you tell people where they can find your show? Do you have a website? What is all of your online links?
To view everything online, as far as the website goes, it's ZachDrewShow.com. ZachDrewShow.com. We post all of our videos there. You can also just simply type in Zach Drew Show on YouTube and Facebook. We're also on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire through the PTL Television Network. So if you have any of those systems, just type in PTL Television Network, and my show will be listed there.
Fantastic. And for everybody at home, if you're a fan of Into the Multiverse, you're going to love the Zach Drew Show. So I highly suggest and recommend that you go and check it out. Well, Zach, thank you again for coming on the show and making time for this. It's always good talking with you. And wow, what a load of information that you were able to provide for the audience. I suggest people go back and rewatch the interview because it is just loaded with information. But thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Josh. I appreciate being here.
All right, well, that was Zach Drew. Again, a big thank you goes out to Zach. And please go check out his show. If you like Into the Multiverse, like I said, you're going to love the Zach Drew Show. All right, everybody. Well, that is it for Into the Multiverse. I would like to hear your comments. Go ahead, leave me a comment in the comment section below. And if you have a question that you would like addressed on the show, email me at jpeck@skywatchtv.com. All right, this has been Into the Multiverse. Thank you for watching the show that dares to expose hidden truths that the world wants to keep secret and the church would rather ignore. All right, everybody, take care. God bless.
When did the government alien programs originate and why? Who were the Collins elite, and were they exposing the dangers of such programs? What exactly did these black projects involve? Learn the astonishing answers to those questions and so much more. Skywatch TV is proud to announce the Higher Entities Ultra Collection. This special offer includes the new Fall Brothers feature film, Higher Entities, The Lost Tapes, which is a live-action documentary including up-close and personal discussions with former FBI agents, Department of Defense consultants, best-selling authors, and seasoned research professionals that deliver intimate testimonies of disclosure, which put you face-to-face on location and in the conversation, featuring Justin Fall, Dr. Thomas Horn, Ray Boucher, Derek Gilbert, Stan Deo, Darren Geisinger, Chad Riley, and Wes Fall. But that's not all. You'll also receive the top-secret 5-volume DVD collection, Project Stargate. This unprecedented series of never-before-released confidential interviews features 12 of the world's leading authorities on UFOs, so-called aliens, gods, and the coming day of contact. You'll be amazed as we go behind the scenes to ask experts what they really believe is coming. Watch as men with security clearances like the late Dr. Chuck Missler share for the first time what they know. Then take notes as Dr. Michael Heiser, the late Chris Putnam, Russ Dizdar, Joe Jordan, L.A. Marzulli, Daryl Sims, Gary Stearman, Joyce Aarons, and others as they weigh in on what will soon cause the world to stand still in awe. Project Stargate holds a retail value all by itself of $150, included now for a limited time in the Higher Entities Ultra Collection. Sold separately, this Ultra Collection holds a retail value of $175. Yours now for your donation of only $35 plus shipping and handling. So take advantage of this incredible offer now and receive all 5 Project Stargate DVDs along with the new Higher Entities documentary for your donation of only $35 plus shipping and handling now at the Skywatch TV store. Order the Higher Entities Ultra Collection online or call 1-844-750-4985.